History is a story we tell ourselves to make sense of the past. We like to believe we have a clear timeline. First, stone tools, then agriculture, then empires, and finally, the smartphone in your pocket. But every few years, the Earth surrenders an object that completely shatters this linear narrative. It is a discovery so out of place, so technologically absurd for its time, that it forces us to ask a terrifying question. Did our ancestors know far more than we give them credit for? Or worse, have we forgotten more than we remember? From batteries that predate electricity to computers that shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years, these are the artifacts that make archaeologists scratch their heads and historians rewrite their textbooks. Today, we are counting down the top 5 ancient discoveries that still, to this day, defy all logical explanation. Number 5, the Baghdad Battery, is an object that looks like a forgotten piece of pottery but acts like a revolution. Discovered in the village of Kuyut Rebaway near Baghdad in 1938, the so-called Baghdad Battery is a 3-part artifact dating back to the Parthian or Sassanid period, roughly 2,000 years old. It consists of a terracotta jar, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod. When researchers replicated the device, they found that filling the jar with an acidic liquid, like vinegar or grape juice, produced roughly 1.1 to 2.0 volts of electricity. That is enough to electroplate gold or silver onto a surface. The controversy, however, is immense. The mainstream archaeological consensus insists that the ancient Persians had no knowledge of electrical theory. There are no wires, no light bulbs, no electric motors found alongside it. Critics argue the jar was simply a storage vessel for sacred scrolls, with the asphalt seal protecting the papyrus. Yet, the electroplating theory persists because experiments prove it works. If the Baghdad Battery was a battery, it rewrites everything we know about ancient energy. It implies that the concept of harnessing electric current existed over a millennium before Alessandro Volta invented the modern battery in 1800. Why isn't this technology mentioned in any surviving texts? And if they had this knowledge, what else could they have powered? The silence of the historical record makes this little clay jar one of the most frustrating and fascinating anomalies in archaeology, a ghost of a forgotten science buried in the sands of Iraq. Number 4, the Antikythera mechanism. We dive into the Aegean Sea, where in 1901, divers looking for sponges stumbled upon a Roman-era shipwreck. Among the statues and coins, they found a green, corroded lump of bronze. No one paid it much attention until it cracked open, revealing a complex clockwork of precision gears. This is the Antikythera mechanism, dated to approximately 100 BCE. For decades, scientists assumed complex gearing was invented in the 14th century for mechanical clocks. This machine is 1,500 years older. Using modern 3D X-ray imaging, we now know it was an analog computer. By turning a hand crank, the user could predict solar and lunar eclipses down to the hour, track the positions of the sun, moon, and even the 5 planets known at the time against the zodiac. It could account for the elliptical orbit of the moon, a mathematical correction we thought only Isaac Newton figured out. The craftsmanship is staggering. The differential gear, a component so complex it was believed to have been invented in the 16th century, is present inside this Greek device. The question that defies explanation is, who built it? Nothing even remotely as complex appears in the historical record for another 1,000 years. The technology appears fully formed, then disappears. Some suggest it came from the school of Posidonius in Rhodes. But if the Greeks could build this, why didn't they build mechanical clocks, automated factories, or steam engines? The Antikythera mechanism is a scream from the past proving that a high level of precision engineering existed in antiquity and then was tragically lost to history. Number 3, the unfinished obelisk. Discovery requires us to look away from the museum shelf and toward a quarry in Aswan, Egypt. Lying on its side, still attached to the bedrock, is the unfinished obelisk. If completed, it would have stood 137 feet tall and weighed an estimated 1,200 tons, the equivalent of 200 African elephants. The sheer scale is impressive, but the mystery lies in the method. The obelisk is carved directly out of the native granite. The ancient Egyptians intended to lift this monster, move it miles to a river, load it onto a barge, and stand it upright on a pedestal. How? Modern engineers have proposed theories involving wooden sledges, wet sand, and thousands of laborers. But the unfinished obelisk exposes a fatal flaw in those theories, the quarry marks. The Egyptians were cutting this granite using only dolerite pounding stones, basically harder rocks hitting softer rocks. The evidence shows they worked at a rate that would take centuries to carve one obelisk. Furthermore, the obelisk cracked before completion, and it was abandoned. But here is the defiance. If they used only brute force and stone hammers, why are the tool marks uniform and efficient? And more importantly, no one has ever successfully replicated moving a 1,200-ton monolith using purely ancient techniques. We cannot do it today without massive hydraulic cranes. The unfinished obelisk is a testament to a gap in our engineering knowledge. It proves the Egyptians had a method of quarrying, transporting, and erecting multi-thousand-ton stones that we simply cannot reverse engineer. It sits in the dirt, mocking the limits of our modern understanding. Number 2. The Lycurgus Cup. We move from brute force to nanotechnology. The Lycurgus Cup, a stunning Roman cage cup from the 4th century AD, depicts King Lycurgus entangled in vines. It is held in the British Museum, and it looks like normal glass until you shine a light through it. Miraculously, the glass changes color. When lit from the front, the cup is a jade green. When lit from behind, it turns a deep blood red. For centuries, historians thought this was a simple chemical dye. But in 1990, scientists using electron microscopes made a shocking discovery. The Roman glassmakers had impregnated the glass with colloidal gold and silver nanoparticles, particles 1,000 times smaller than a grain of salt. This is nanotechnology. Specifically, they ground gold and silver down until they were particles between 50 and 100 nanometers in diameter. At that scale, metals interact with light differently, creating the dichroic, two-color effect. The question that defies explanation is, how did the Romans do this? We only discovered how to fabricate nanoparticles systematically in the 20th century using high vacuum chambers. The Romans had no electron microscopes, no clean rooms, and no concept of nano. Did they stumble upon this by accident? Possibly, but the uniformity of the particles suggests deliberate engineering. The Lycurgus Cup is the only known complete example from antiquity. It suggests that ancient chemists were performing atomic-scale manipulation of materials. If they could control matter at the nanoscale, what other magic were they capable of? This cup is a silent witness to a lost school of alchemy that was centuries ahead of physics. Number 1. The Great Pyramid's precision. Taking the top spot on our list is the oldest and most controversial, the Great Pyramid of Giza. We all know the pyramid, but we rarely appreciate the insane tolerances involved. The base of the Great Pyramid is a square with sides of roughly 756 feet each. The difference in length between the longest and shortest side is less than 2 inches. That is an accuracy of 0.015%. For context, if you were building a highway from New York to Los Angeles, this level of precision would mean your road would be off by only about 90 feet over 2,800 miles. But it gets worse. The base is level to within less than 1 inch. Modern construction with laser-guided equipment struggles to achieve that over a football field, let alone 13 acres. And they did it with no power tools. Furthermore, the pyramid is aligned to true north, not magnetic north, with an accuracy of 1/15 of a degree. The builders achieved a precision that we only matched with satellite technology in the 1970s. The mainstream explanation claims they used water channels to level the base and star alignment to find north. But this explanation fails on a practical level. Moving 2.3 million blocks weighing up to 80 tons each with copper tools and wooden sledges would crush any water-level system instantly. The defiance here is not about aliens. It's about the arrogance of assuming we understand ancient engineering. The precision of the Great Pyramid suggests a surveying and construction methodology that is completely lost to history. It implies a mastery of geometry, astronomy, and materials science that feels anachronistic. Whether it was a tomb or a power plant, the fact remains, we could not replicate the Great Pyramid today with modern technology without spending billions of dollars. It remains the ultimate stone puzzle. So what do we do with these 5 anomalies? We can ignore them, calling them lucky accidents or ritual objects we don't understand. But to do so is to ignore the truth staring us in the face. Human history is not a straight line of progress. It is a series of peaks and valleys. There were dark ages where knowledge vanished, and golden ages where we touched the edge of modern science only to lose our grip. The Baghdad Battery, the Antikythera mechanism, and the Lycurgus Cup are not proof of time travelers or aliens. They are proof of us. They prove that the human mind, even without the internet or electricity, was capable of breathtaking leaps of logic and invention. The scariest question history poses isn't what did they know? It's what else have we lost in the dirt? Until the next shovel uncovers the next impossible thing, keep questioning the timeline.